Joseph Roy Metani was born on March 2, 1955, in Baltimore, USA. He grew up in a family of 6 children, where parental supervision was scarce due to his father's alcoholism, leaving his mother with the heavy burden of providing for the family. Working multiple jobs to make ends meet, she often had little time for her children. Tragically, when Joseph was 6 years old, his father died in a car accident. Responsibility for the family now fell entirely on his mother, leading to even less attention for the children. She worked double shifts to pay the bills, taking on jobs as a waitress and a truck driver selling food. As a result, the children often lived with other families under foster care programs, giving them a temporary safe haven until they could be reunited with their biological parents or adopted by the host families. The stress and lack of emotional support took a toll on Joseph, leading to weight issues as a means of coping. At the age of 18, he joined the U.S. Army in 1973 and served in Germany. During his service, he developed a dependency on illicit substances, and his behavior noticeably changed. However, it took some time for him to truly realize the gravity of his problems. His mother began to notice the decline of her son, who became increasingly distant from the family. Due to his towering height and obesity, friends jokingly called him "Big Guy." His addiction began to resemble that of his late father's, as he frequented bars and lived on the streets with the homeless, forming makeshift tent communities in South Baltimore. It was there that Joseph met a woman whose name remains unknown, and they had a son together. Upon learning about becoming a father, Joseph found a job at a company, and things seemed to improve. He was considered intelligent and educated, but no one knew about his addiction. It all began on a July night in 1994 when Joseph was at work, operating a forklift at the Pallets Company, which manufactured and sold wooden boards. He worked late that night, staying several hours longer than he needed to. After finishing his shift, he returned home as usual, only to find himself alone. His wife and 6-year-old son were nowhere to be seen. The woman had taken everything and left him. The emptiness in his home triggered a furious rage, stemming from the loss of his wife, who, like him, was also struggling with addiction. Though he treated her poorly, the disappearance of his beloved son pushed him over the edge. For days, he searched everywhere for his family, but to no avail. After 6 months, some people informed Joseph that they had seen them on the other side of the city with a man who forced his wife into prostitution in exchange for drugs. A few days later, his former wife and her partner were arrested for drug use and possession, and the boy was taken away due to neglect and mistreatment. Joseph could do nothing to get his son back, so he grew to hate his ex-wife and her partner. He believed they should pay for what they did, so he began to search for them. As it turned out, they had been released, and the only punishment was the loss of their child. Now, Joseph's ex-wife and her new partner lived under bridges with other addicts. Joseph decided to try and find them there, but he couldn't. However, he found 2 people lying on a dirty old mattress, and seeing them reminded him of the reason he couldn't see his son. He directed his anger towards these people and killed them with an axe. He hid their bodies in the bushes and continued searching in nearby areas. That night, he searched for his wife under other bridges nearby and noticed 2 more women there. Approaching them, Joseph tried to gather information about the whereabouts of his ex-wife and her partner. One of the women walked away a few meters, and he followed her, asking her questions. Due to substance abuse, she was not in her right mind and acted as if she knew nothing. After obtaining what he wanted, Joseph began attacking her, then raped and killed her. When he finished, he dragged the body into the bushes and left it there. He did the same with the second woman, and as he was about to leave her in the bushes next to the other woman, he noticed an old man fishing by the river, watching him. Joseph grabbed an iron pipe from the trash and ran towards the fisherman, who couldn't react in time and received a series of blows that led to his death. When Joseph came to his senses and realized what he had done, he moved the bodies of the victims to the banks of the Patapsco River in Baltimore and attempted to hide them under rocks. Then he washed himself in the river and tried to clean up at the scene to leave no evidence. That night, he killed 5 people in about 7 hours. On one night in 1994, he met a 39-year-old woman named Katie. They used drugs together, and when she refused to have sex with him, he grabbed her by the neck and choked her until she died. He then dug a shallow grave in the woods behind the factory, and nobody noticed. 6 months later, Joseph separated the head from the body and threw it away in the trash. But the body remained there for several years. On August 2, 1995, the bodies of the homeless were found, and their identities were established as Randall Breyer and Aronde Baker. Several people had seen a heavy-set man walking near the bridges. His identity was determined, leading to Joseph's arrest on suspicion of the murders. He was held in Baltimore's jail for 18 months while awaiting trial. However, there was no evidence to prove his guilt. After a week-long trial, he was released due to lack of evidence. It was established that another homeless man was the actual killer. Upon his release, Joseph returned to the company where he had worked before and asked to be rehired. His boss agreed, considering him a good worker. He also allowed Joseph to stay in a small trailer located on the company's premises in exchange for keeping the place secure. Joseph was given a key to the entire premises. The boss was unaware of Joseph's other intentions. The company's building was located at the other end of the street, far from the road, making it an ideal place for Joseph to fulfill all his fantasies. In November 1996, he met Kimberly Lyne Spencer, whom he stabbed to death when she refused to have sex with him. He buried her body on the factory grounds. It was then that he first cut the meat from his victim and put it in a container that he placed in the refrigerator. That week, he organized a kiosk where he sold burgers. He mixed pork and beef with human meat. No one noticed any difference in taste. He even mentioned that many people said they were the best burgers they had ever tasted. Everything went well until he ran out of the special meat. On December 8, 1996, he found his new victim, Rita Kemper. They used drugs in his trailer for a while, but when he tried to undress her, she resisted and screamed in desperation. No one could help her. Rita then ran out of the trailer and fled. Joseph caught up to her and dragged her back. He told her he was going to kill her, but Rita managed to escape from the trailer again. She ran to a fence with barbed wire, but that didn't stop her from climbing over it. She reached the road, where she saw a truck driver. He took her to the nearest auto repair shop, where she called the police. Joseph packed his belongings. He knew they would soon come for him. But when he stepped out of the trailer, the police were already there. They ordered him to lie on the ground. That's how he was arrested and interrogated. He denied all the accusations for which he was detained. The girl told the police that he threatened to kill her, like the other women who were buried nearby. He denied her words and added that everything was consensual with the girl. They released him, worried that the police might check the location. Joseph asked a friend to help him dig up Kimberly's grave, whose body was still on the factory grounds. On that day, December 15, 1996, his friend reported him to the police, saying that Joseph asked for help in moving a woman's body buried near his trailer. When the police arrived, they arrested him again, along with the company owner, on suspicion of complicity. Joseph was asked to reveal where Kimberly was buried, and he provided the location. The police found the girl's body. On the same day, during the interrogation, Joseph confessed to other crimes, including the murder of a girl named Katie. A few days later, he confessed to being a serial killer and taking the lives of 13 people. According to his words, he left the bodies near the Patapsco River, where they were never found. He also stated that he dismembered most of the victims and preserved the meat to eat later. Then he came up with the idea of opening a food kiosk to sell human meat mixed with animal meat. His words shocked everyone, but over time, doubts arose about the veracity of his statements. Every day he was interrogated in a small room. The investigators wanted to figure everything out and close unresolved cases. Every day, they took him from one place to another so that he would tell them where he left the bodies of other victims, but a month passed and no bodies were found. By that time, the police no longer knew if Joseph was telling the truth or just hallucinating. What he said sounded too fantastical. One of Joseph's problems was that he was a skilled liar, and making up stories on the spot was not difficult for him. In 1997, a trial was held for Rita Kemper, the last victim who managed to escape. Metheny was sentenced to 50 years in prison for attempted kidnapping and rape. In 1998, he confessed to the murder of a girl named Katie. On July 14, 2000, he was sentenced to life imprisonment. But no one knew whether Joseph was lying because he wanted to or if his mind was so unstable that he confessed to past crimes. No evidence was found of the murders he claimed to have committed. Was he really planning to open a kiosk selling hamburgers made of his victims? Only 2 murders were proven. He was clearly mentally unstable, which led him to make false statements. He said, "I will never say I regret what I did because that would be a lie. I am more than willing to give my life for what I did. Let God judge me, He can even send me to hell forever, and I'll enjoy it." On Saturday, August 5, 2017, Joseph was found dead in his cell at around 3 p.m. in the correctional facility in Cumberland, Maryland. He was 62 years old. The cause of death remains unknown. This case is a vivid example of how not everything killers confess to is true. Many confess to crimes they didn't commit just to become infamous. This was Zargo. Until we meet again, take care of yourselves.